for the day, Dr. Victor Kehin Rodriguez Matsudo, who specialized in orthopedic and traumatology and sport medicine, full professor of medicine at Gamma Philo University, scientific director and president of the Physical Fitness Research Center of Sao Cietano di Sul, Cellular Physics, invited professor at Santa Cansa Medical School, Department of Preventive Medicine, chairman of the Agita Sao Paulo program organized by the State Secretariat of Health of Sao Paulo State, founder member and chairman of the Physical Activity Network of the Americas, founder member and past chairman and current executive board member of the Agita Mundo Network, member of the International Consultative Group on Active Living of World Health Organization, past president and regional director of the International Council of Sports Sciences and Physical Education, XP, responsible for creation and chair of the Ilabila Mixed Longitudinal Project on Growth and Development since 1978, founder member of the International Society of Physical Activity and Health, author of the book Test in Sports Sciences, which is now in 7th edition, and co-author of the book Obesity and Physical Activity, authors of 8 chapters and different books published in sports science arena, chair of the Committee on Physical Education, Physiotherapy and Nursing from the National Research Council, member ad hoc for the Sao Paulo Research Foundation, 1995, founder and first president of the Brazilian College of Sports Sciences, 1978 to 81, chair of the International Symposium on Sports Sciences, 1974, founder of the International Society for Advancement of Kinanthropometry in 1986, fellow of American Academy of Kinesiology and Physical Education, former member of Executive Board of International Council of Physical Activity and Fitness Research, member of Sports Nutrition Commission of the International Olympic Committee, member of the former Talent Detection Commission of the International Olympic Committee. Awards received: gold medal in sports medicine at the Barcelona Olympic Games, Philip Noel Baker Award for the International Council of Sports Sciences and Physical Education, Prince Faisal Award of the International Federation of Physical Education, Carlos Slim Foundation Award, World Health Day Award from the American Health Association, Center for Disease Control and Prevention Award, Citation Award of the American College of Sports Medicine, Odyssey Award of the ACSM. Indeed, it's been a great honor with this. I think it's just a glimpse. On behalf of the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs, Khelo India, Lakshmi National College of Physical Education, a warm welcome to our most distinguished speaker and most awaited speaker, Dr. Victor, to this session. Welcome. I also would like to welcome the President of XP, Dr. Yuri. I'd like to welcome Professor Rosa, Dr. Beatrice, Dr. G. Kishore, Dr. Sanjay Prajapati, and my dear teachers. Before we start the session, as Rosa has an important assignment, she has to leave, I request her to speak a few words and then just a minute. Hope you would permit with us, Rosa. Professor Rosa, please.
Thank you very much. And hello, India. I hope you're all doing well. So it's a great pleasure to share today with you the great information that Victor Matsudo is going to share with us. Victor Matsudo is a keynote speaker that has been worldwide. There is no continent in which Victor Matsudo hasn't been speaking about what he has always been working with to make people move, physical active, and the idea that sport is medicine. So we tried to have Victor for the first batch, but he's a very busy person and we gave him such a short notice. But now we managed to have him here in this second chance. So for all of you PE teachers of India and coaches, make sure you write your questions there in the chat box, because you will have the chance after listening his wonderful presentation, he will address your questions. So thank you very much, Victor, for making it possible, and my best wishes to you all in this experience today.
Thank you very much, Rosa.
Thank you, Professor Rosa. Over to you, Dr. Victor, please. Would like to share the screen, Dr. Victor? Dr. Victor would like to share the screen.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. Indeed, it's good evening for you in India. I'd like to thank you, Usha, for this kind invitation, and for my colleagues Rosa and Beatriz, who are quite important persons working in Latin America and promoting physical activity, physical education, sports, particularly for women. In case of Beatriz, and it's a pleasure to get to Yuri, our president of the International Council for Sports Science and Physical Education, and the two kind fellows and friends from India, and many of you who are now listening and watching me. The title of my presentation is How to Promote Physical Activity Globally, the Experience of Agita, Sao Paulo. Like I told you, it's really high pressure and honor to be part of this event. I realized the important guys who have been already spoken this event, and I try to follow by far the work of Callow India in the Indian community. And I'm so delighted with the job they have done in India and all the Asia continent. I have been working in the Central Studies of the Physical Fitness Research Laboratory from São Caetano do Sul, that is called CELAFISC, since 1974. That is our current group, and every year we have an international symposium where we meet former students from our research center who are now being professor at different universities in Brazil and other countries. Our institute, although is a very poor, he has a world recognition, and we got 8 stars. That means 8 world awards. That some of them were mentioned by Yusha, and particularly I'd like to emphasize the CSM Citation Award in 2014, given by to the first time for a couple of Latin American guys, that was Sandra Matsudo and myself, and also the Odyssey Award that supposedly the American College consider myself the fellow who was most promoting physical activity around the world. In Rio 2016, of course, everybody remember the opening ceremony. And from that, at that moment, I was thinking about 4 years before when everybody were in London. And once in London, I have been in the Olympic Village. At the Olympic Village, I was thinking about the slogan of the former Olympics, that is Beijing. And the Beijing slogan was "One World, One Dream." That's a really important slogan, don't you think so? But in the moment I was in the bird nest, I was thinking that would be nice if we, inside the bird nest, instead of top athletes, we might have regular people, normal people, happy because they are active. That is my dream. And my dream is that everything start to be active since the very beginning of life, permitting a very pleasant experience in this planet. If we take this picture from Peter Bruegel from 1560, that is how he interprets the society at that moment. And you can easily identify that what is most touching this picture is the movement. Men and women were in movement, were doing some activities. But if you adapt this picture for nowadays situation, that would be the scenario. Streets are empty because safety, and everybody inside home in front of computers. That is very poor for health. And it's translating to Sao Paulo. The prevalence of risk factors in Sao Paulo in the beginning of the 90s shows clearly that the sedentarism touched about 70% of our population. Meanwhile, diabetes touched 9.7%. In other words, if we have a campaign to combat diabetes, we should develop 7 different campaigns to combat sedentarism because it's 7 times more prevalent than diabetes. Another problem that is in Brazil, we have a 300,000 deaths per year, representing 1 death per minute, quite a high incidence of mortality in cardiovascular health. Summing the deaths in Brazil and all the countries of the world, Amy Lee has published in Lancet 2012 a wonderful paper in which she showed that 5.3 million deaths happen in the world because physical inactivity. I call the attention for this slide because, of course, high cholesterol kill people, but physical inactivity kills more. High diabetes kills people, but physical inactivity kills more. Tobacco kills people, but physical inactivity kills more. Only high blood pressure kills more people than physical inactivity. But another problem is the cost of sedentarism. According to Melody Dean, a wonderful lady from China that is now working in Australia, she showed in the Lancet 2016 a paper in which she could determine the cost of the world cost of sedentarism, and means $53.8 billion in 2013. It's quite amazing. And I also call the attention to this paper in which physical activity in the United Kingdom annual costs represent almost 4 times the cost than tobacco, than smoking. And you know that in United Kingdom, the people smoke a lot, but even so, physical inactivity represents much, much more costs for the society. In other words, we have a risk factor with the highest prevalence, second death cause, and the most expensive risk factor. That is why we consider sedentarism the public health #1 enemy. That we should take into account when we start discussing the need of promotion physical activity and the need to combat sedentarism we have around the world. In our days, the attention was dedicated to coronavirus. And the data showed in yesterday, 11 p.m., 784,000 people was killed around the world. It's tremendous impact. But we should also take into account that although we have this epidemic of a coronavirus, we have also epidemic of sedentarism that we call a global syndemic. A global syndemic means the sum of 2 or more epidemics. And just to remind that sedentarism kills 14,000 people just from yesterday to today. This is the number of people killed around the world every day, because sedentarism is not really an easy problem to solve. Last week, this paper appeared and shows that obesity doubled the risk for people get hospitalization by COVID-19. And also shows that a 32% increased risk among people who were inactive. And also, the same paper showed another very interesting feature, that if we combine lifestyle factors, if we combine, for example, one risk factor increased by 48% the risk for hospitalization, but the 2 risk factors combined represent a 43% increase. If a fellow has 5 or more risk factor, they triple or force the risk to be at the hospital by COVID-19. In other words, what I want to say that according to Selafiskis, Rafa, and the Agita Mundo network, we have this slogan: quarantine, yes; sedentarism, no. Because coronavirus will pass, but sedentarism will continue. That is the problem. That's something that we need to think about. The question we may arise is, do we have evidence to propose an alternative approach to public health? The evidence is started in 1953 by a wonderful paper from Jim Morris, Jerry Morris in England, and they show that the drivers of these typical buses, Londonian buses, they got a higher level of ischemia, cardiac ischemia, and deaths by cardiovascular diseases than the conductors. This was the first paper that started to identify in the area of exercise epidemiology. More recent papers shows clearly that the decline of the risk factor for mortality according to different levels of physical activity. Because we have a high number of women, I want to highlight this paper based upon 74,000 women, in which it shows clearly the benefits to be active among women because it represents a 50% reduction in the risk for breast cancer. And another paper also in these lines complete the importance of to be active and to eat a high level of vegetables and fruits, because the ladies who got a high level of physical activity and have a intake of high intake of food and fruits and vegetables got a 58% protection about in regards to a reincidence of cancer, breast cancer. That is quite incredible, because I ask any oncologist in the world, do you have any pill that can give you this protection for my wife, for my uncle in regards to breast cancer? I know they don't have any, but we professionals from physical activity, we have the best pill in the world to protect women in regards to breast cancer. The another question is, does scientific knowledge change behavior? I want to show you that is quite a paradox, because we have published papers increasing exponential during the last recent years and decades, but at the same time, we have a decline in physical activity. That is a tremendous paradox, because we have studying something that is happening less and less. Another example we can see in the American College of Sports Medicine Annual Conference. These are the ladies and men who have published the data, have presented about the benefits of physical activity, but take a look in the behavior they got. This is the only one who is taking a regular stair because he was blind. After 4 years of intervention, many conference, symposium, lectures, free communication, poster presentation, we went back to the same conference. And now, even the blind fellow didn't take the stair because he realized there is a electrical stairs on the side. After 10 years, we came back to the same conference, and what happened? No stairs at all, no stairs. This is something that we need to think about. What kind of society we are prepared for our future, for our new generations, or particularly for us, the old generation. In other words, physical activity is easy to study, but difficult to promote. Then I come to my topic, is how to promote physical activity in the state of São Paulo, a state of 44 million inhabitants, 645 cities. And we take the vision of our institute that's putting theory and practice in one sentence. That is the vision of Agita Mundo. The model is quite an interesting model. We have been using the mobile management of the ecological model. The ecological model is very well known. Our trick was to adapt it to a real situation, to a real world, where we have interpersonal factors, socio-environmental factors, physical environmental factors. And for example, if we target a cognitive aspect of interpersonal, among the interpersonal factors, this cognitive component will become light because we treat them, we give attention to them, and another component will be heavier in the model. I come again. If we target one component of interpersonal, that component become lighter because we give attention to that. And another component, for example, from social environment takes the lead for our attention. And progressive, we move to physical environment because We solve some social environment, and then we move to physical environment that will lead the intentions of the team that is trying to promote physical activity. In our model, we start working with intellectual partnership. Intellectual partnership permit us to develop a strong program. We stay 2 years, visiting different countries, asking researchers, health promoters to come to Brazil, and with them we built up the best program we could prepare for that moment. Another important strategic partnership is the institutional partnership. We have in our board not only people from sports, education, and health, the 3 traditional sectors involved in health promotion, physical activity, but we also using urban planning, tourism, environment, housing, transport. We try to get all the representatives of the society to really address this terrible enemy that we have in our community, that is sedentarism, that, like I mentioned, was touching 70% of our population at that time. We have 3 target groups: students, workers, and elders. Then, I was mentioned, besides the traditional partners, we ask the attention of non-traditional partners, like marketing, communication, environment, economy, management, all the representatives from different sectors of society. We have over 650 partners groups working together to face this terrible epidemic of sedentarism in the state of Sao Paulo. We have a monthly board meeting every first Tuesday month, and we have this meeting, and is the oldest meeting, the Secretary of Health in the state of Sao Paulo, because the program was sponsored by the State Secretariat of Health of Sao Paulo. We establish inter and intersectorial balance. Intersectorial balance is very well known. I call the attention for intersectorial balance. For example, when we got to support the partnership of GM, General Motors, the car company, we immediately asked the support of Ford, because the program should be not only something that one company, one component is the owner of the program. The program owner is the society, and that we need to get all the members, all the representatives of society in the program. Self-sustainability is like the commitment, political commitment, because they easily say, oh yes, Yusha, I love your program, I do support your program. In our case, we say, okay, if you support our program, please sign a letter of support. And that's this picture from former governors of Sao Paulo signed the letter for physical activity promotion. Inclusion approach is another important feature of our program. We try to use partnership empowerment. Instead of giving a new agenda for an institution, we try to empower the partners in preparation different aspects of physical activity. In other words, we have a different aspect, different attention, different purpose programs, but we carry the same flag. The ownership feeling. Ownership feeling is very important to keep partnership longer. And for that reason, we have an annual forum of good practices, in which we have the representatives of the different groups that are part of Agita Sao Paulo, and we prepare a book in where you can see different logos from different partners. Well, that is something that I call the attention, because it's very important to share with the partners the ownership of the program. We have a very interesting approach. We call that the two hats approach. In countries like Brazil, in countries in many other countries, political instability does not give it enough support for a long-term intervention. Then we start to use the two hats approach, in which we have in one hat the governmental support, but in the other hand, the NGOs and the private sector support. Because when, for example, when we miss the support of government, the programs will not end because we have the support of NGOs and the private sector. And that is how we promote Agita São Paulo, Agita Brazil. We have got the attention of the Minister of Health, and we prepare for a while the Agita Brazil in every state of my country. We use a clear message. I think that is very important for any program to get a clear message. For example, our first clear message was that everybody should take at least 30 minutes per day of moderate physical activity in continuous or accumulated fashion, and mostly days of the week, at least 5 days of the week. That is very important, a clear message, a clear message. However, since 2009, another factor start to touch the scenario of promotion physical activity, that is indeed the sedentarism. You call that sitting time. You see the wonderful paper from P.A.at that showing that the people who pass most of the day sitting got a lower level of survival than people who stay less sitting during the day. That is magnificent because it was based upon in 16,000, over 16,000 people. That was followed by 15 years. That's unbelievable. And that is amazing data. That for that reason, we have this, just to remind that sitting time is really mortal behavior. And before to be mortal, it increases the comorbidities like BMI, waist circumference, blood pressure, and triglycerides. Every factor, every metabolic factor was touched by sitting time. For that reason, Agita São Paulo, with the mascot, that is our mascot, the half-hour man, suggests that standing for 5 minutes is everybody who was sitting for 30 minutes. If you are sitting for 60 minutes, then you should stand for 10 minutes. Then we have two messages, the 30 minutes message and the diminished sitting time message combined. However, recently, a very interesting move we're watching in the world scenario of physical activity. It is a revolutionary scenario because you can see that when thousands of people were followed by a long time, you see that if they took bouts of 10 minutes, bout of 5 minutes, or any duration bouts, it happens a decline in all-cause mortalities. You see, independent of the duration of the bout, it happens a decline, a strong decline in mortality. What is the conclusion? Bout duration do not matter. That is very, very important. Another very important recent finds is the role of light physical activity. Light physical activity was not considered to get any benefits for health, just because it was not measured. That was the reason. Because we got the advantage to use accelerometers, and accelerometers are devices that can measure light physical activity, the scientific world start to receive papers showing the benefits of light physical activity, like this paper that show, like you can see clearly, that meta-analysis showing the benefits of light physical activity in cardiometabolic health. In other words, light physical activity improves cardiometabolic health in diminished mortality. More data about light physical activity because it's new, and I want to share with you what is more important in the world of physical activity promotion right now. This is light physical activity, another paper showing a protection of almost 30% of light physical activity. Different papers showing this meta-analysis, almost a 30% protection in regard to mortality. In other words, it's very important just to stand up and move a little bit around. When the telephone rings, just wake, stand up and start walk and talk, but walk. Meanwhile, you are talking the phone, and you get a high benefits that we never expected. But the recent data is showing this, that the light physical activity diminish all-cause mortality. Another very interesting paper by Jeffrey is showing that an increase of 30 minutes sitting represents a 70% increase in all-cause mortality. However, 10 minutes of moderate vigorous physical activity per day decline 10% of all-cause mortality. I call the attention again, 10 minutes of moderate physical activity, 10% less all-cause mortality. 1,000 steps per day increase represent a 15% decline in all-cause mortality. And take a look at this. An increase of 30 minutes light physical activity represent a decline in 70% of all-cause mortality. Taking into account all this theory, Salafiskis, who used to be good in translating theory into practice, launched a new campaign called Every Step Counts to promote your health. Every Step Counts is now a campaign that is touching countries with Spanish-speaking countries, English-speaking countries, and even Aruba with papiamento, like you can see on the right-hand side of the slides. And I hope we'll touch India as well. Every step counts. Todo paso cuenta, Rosa. It's to reach 30 minutes of physical activity per day. Then we have the new recommendations that included the at least 30 minutes of physical activity, diminish sitting time, and move any time of the day, because light physical activity is an important factor to promote your health. A program has to have a strong name, that is Agita Sao Paulo. Agita represents much more than just a move your body. Agita represents a change of mentality. Be ready for change. That's a idiomatic expression in Portuguese in Brazil. And Agita, it means, again, not to only move your body, it's move your mind. Be ready for change. A program slogan is very important. In our case, we took 30 minutes to make the difference. A program mascot. We have a quite interesting mascot, the 30 minutes or the half-hour man. What is most important in this mascot? Some of you say, oh, the clock is represented at least 30 minutes. I would say that the most important is the smiley, because we are not professional asking to do minutes of physical activity. We should be professional to work with population to increase their pleasure to be active. Pleasure, fun is the trick to get people active. And that is the trick of Agita Sao Paulo to promote physical activity in the world. Pleasure and fun, like you can see in the faces of the participants of Agita, is not only in the mascot, but is in the face of people. That is very important. Where to do physical activity? At home, push the car, wash the windows, take care of the garden, take a walk with your dog. If you don't have a dog, just walk by yourself. Anyway, the home is a very important place to be active. Physical activity at work site. Try to go to the work site walking, or climb the stairs once you arrive in the building. Physical activity at the leisure time. What is the best sport? The one who you enjoy the most? That is the answer. And don't try to teach people the exercise based upon exercise physiology data showing that, oh, swimming is the best sport. No. Something that really make you very happy and make fun with you. I highlight dancing. I know that Indian people like to dance, and dance is the best message we may have, because it's the best combination of movement and pleasure. That is why I love dance. We have to optimize communication strategies. We have the half-hour man, and he is smiling because he knows that there is someone waiting for him at home, the half-hour women. And it is important, the half-hour good grandmom and granddaddy. We have the half-hour men adapted to different ethnic groups. We have attention to the handicapped groups. We have attention to the family and even to the dog, because data shows clear that families who have a dog get better profiling of mortality and cardiometabolic indices. At school setting, we have a wonderful program called Agita Galera. Agita Galera is a program dedicated to touch the school setting in the state of Sao Paulo. We touch 6,000 schools, 6 million students, 1,225 teachers at the public school system, besides the private school system. We prepare materials. We have prepare a poster. We prepare a booklet. We prepare flyers. And we send to all these schools in the state of Sao Paulo. Each year, Agita Galera take a topic to discuss. For example, this year was sport. This year was at the physical activity in the room, the challenge of health. Each year we decided what might be the topic for discussion, and the students develop all kind of materials for that. Sao Paulo, as I told you, has 645 cities, and you have a picture from different cities of my state celebrating Agita Galera. Because we coming from a research center, what is very important is data. And I can share with you data showing the impact of Agita Galera on the knowledge of a CSM CDC recommendation. And you see that in terms of frequency, when compare public school system, where we have Agita Galera, to private school system, you can see easily that public school boys and girls, they got a better answer to the frequency that is 5 times per week than the students from private schools. In terms of duration, the same public school boys and girls perform better for duration question. The same for intensity, that is moderate, and for the mode, that accumulation is also possible to do, and not only then to do the former, thinking that is just a long duration that should get any benefit to your health. But you may ask a question for me. They know better the recommendation, but were they more active? Data from this sample showing clearly that the public school boys and girls were 37% more active than boys and girls from private school. And that is another index of success of Agita among the students, among the schools. I would say that it's not easy to open a school for your dream. I imagine that in India, it's also difficult if you come back to your former school and try to do any program with your former school. It's not easy, okay? I think you agree with me, because it's difficult to come back to your former school and ask them to do some program you think is better for the students. But we got, for 23 years, the positive reply of over 5,000 schools in the state of Sao Paulo to our program. And I'm very pleased to share with you the secret of our approach. When we go to school, we never ask the education authorities because the benefits of health to be active, but we share with them the potential benefits of an active school. And the first potential benefits we share with them is the diminishing of absenteeism. That is very important. That is something that really is part of the agenda of educational authorities. This ministry absenteeism. Oh, okay, yes, it seems that's promising this program. And because they have a diminishing absenteeism, they increase the academic performance. Another important point in the agenda of educational authorities. And because they increase the academic performance, they increase the parents' relationship. Another source of problems with parents is the academic performance, and also an active school increases the parent relationship because the children, the kids are getting better academic performance. Because they get a better relationship with parents, they reduce the disturbance of behavior. And because they reduce the behavior disturbance, they reduce the delinquents and the use of drugs and increase absenteeism. And finally, an active school increase the responsibility of the kids. And that is the main goal of any program we may do at school. At the work site, we have work with different institutions, and I share with you the data we obtained in a very important bank in Brazil, the National Bank of Brazil, and you see that after, in terms of moderate physical activity, we got an increase of from 9.4% to 21.9% after post-intervention in active people, and that diminished from 46% to 23% in inactive people, among inactive people. That is, the model of Agita works not only at school setting, but also at industries and institution working or at work site. Among the elderly in the city of São Caetano, we have an intervention, and in 5-year intervention show a decline of sedentary people, 30%, irregularly active people, 60%, an increase in active people in 61.2%. Then the model works also among elderly people. We use unpaid media. We don't pay $1 for any media company. And you see that the estimated people reached by a single measure of Agita is 35 million people per year, because we have been using programs at TV and considering the cost of TV of about 12,000 per 30 seconds, it represents a save money of about 13 million US dollars. The medical sector, very important, very important. Medical doctors are very important, and but you know that is difficult to call the attention of those guys. We have a strong partnership with São Paulo Medical Association, and that is the medical half hour, man. And we may have this example. This our grandma is a pill to diabetes, another pill to hypertension, another pill for osteoporosis, another pill for memory. It's a total disaster. Is that true that we need to gain money during all life long, to just spend that money to buy medicines at the end of our days? Of course, that is not the message for our living. In that case, we created a magic pill, Agitol. Agitol is a magic pill. It's the formula for active living. It's a pill that declines diabetes, hypertension, cancer, depression, but before or after you take the pill, you should walk for at least 30 minutes for the effects of this pill start appearing in your body. That's time to present Agitol for our grandma. And to be political correct, I should share the generics of Agitol with you. Inclusive approach is another principle of Agita. I think this slide is perfect representation of Agita. That's the inclusion of the handicap, inclusion of the obese and the indigenous group, increase the inclusion of the young people, inclusion of the aging people. That is Agita São Paulo, Agita Mundo, a machine of inclusion in physical activity. Cultural links. We have a very important cultural links. For example, in any Agita Galera, we ask the students to try participate in a contest of posters, and you see the imagination of the students preparing half hour man and half hour banana man, half hour crab man from the people from the beach area, and the one leg man from the region where we have a history of the Saci. It's a part of our mystic stories of Sao Paulo, and Rodeo, half hour man from the Rodeo area. And finally, we move to the physical environment. Communities is where life happens. And I will share with you some examples of what we are doing in environment. That is Ilha Bela, one of the most nicest places in Brazil. And there we prepare, we work with the mayor of the city, and we were able to construct a walk and bike path around the island. Take a look at the figures. We, after follow up of 5 years period of after that construction, you see that a decline in sufficiently active people in about 57%, and an increase in sufficient active people by 32%. That is a nice impact of a behavioral population, just because we built a bike and walking path. São Caetano is my city, and in our city we have a quite an amazing program to promote physical activity in parks. But what is more important is the health sidewalk program of my city. We try to rebuild the sidewalks, and we prepare sidewalks and also walking paths that really permit people to move. And the result of this was the comparison of cardiovascular mortality in Brazil, that is unfortunately is even a little bit increasing this time. In São Paulo state, it's a little bit declining, but in São Caetano, you can see a marked decline, Then it seems that was worthy to start our walking side program. But my favorite example comes from Sorocaba city. That is Sorocaba before Agita, before the Vitor Lipio, the former mayor of the city, start to change the city with this. That is Sorocaba after Agita. This is Sorocaba city before Agita. This is Sorocaba city after Agita. This is Sorocaba city before Agita. This is a view of the same region with walking paths and biking paths building all around the city. And the data, because we are crazy researchers, we are based on data, and we see that a decline of 50% in hospitalization by stroke and a decline of 57% hospitalization by diabetes. I don't know any example in the world with this strong impact in hospitalization, because changes in environment, changes in walking paths. This is another message of Agita. In evaluation, you see that the level of sedentarism in Sao Paulo decline in average about 41%, comparing data from 2007 to 2000, and it represents 520,000 persons starting walking on a regular basis per year. And it is also was checked by another paper in which we realized that we obtained a decline about 70% in irregularly active and very sedentary behavior in the state of Sao Paulo. And for the World Bank came to Sao Paulo to analyze these records, and considering that the increase of physical activity represented a decline in medical examinations, decline in drugs use, decline in exams, decline in hospitalization, decline in surgeries. All these combined, according to World Bank, represented Agita give a saving of over 300 million US dollars per year in the health sector of Sao Paulo. For that reason, we got the recognition of the different organizations in the world. I shared this paper, this book from the Chronic Disease Investment for Oral Health Organization, where in the chapter of review of effective interventions, they mention Agita São Paulo as the first example. A local impact, because we have impact in different cities in the state of São Paulo. You can see different logos of the state of São Paulo, cities combining. A national impact, like I mentioned you before, different states. International impact, we built the RAFA, the Physical Activity Networks of America, that we have to representatives of all cities, of all countries in our continent. And now we move it to Agita Mundo Network, a network that is present in 72 countries with almost 300 partners institutions belonging to this. And you can see images from Agita supporting the restart of the European Network of Physical Activity. And you can see the red, this is a very important, the red sticker of Agita, these fellows in the Swiss Alps, where the European network was reestablished. In Africa, we have a VUCA, South Africa, that VUCA means in Zulu language, Agita. In Australia, with Adrian Bauman. Even in India, we have a group of colleagues where we have been visiting India and talking with leaders, with Dr. Reddy on front, and China. We need to maximize mobilization. We need to, you may ask why you doctors are now asking people to go straight to a strong mobilization, because social mobilization is tricky to change behavior. I ask a question for you. How people drives the behavior in the health sector? How do people drive the behavior in the health sector? People drives the behavior based upon the social perception of the risk. And social perception of the risk is given by the relative risk times indignation. For example, the relative risk of HIV is very low, but indignation is very high. Then the social perception of the risk is high because the indignation is high. What's the social perception of the risk to be sedentary? Relative risk of sedentarism is high, but indignation, unfortunately, is low around the world. And that is why the social perception of the risk is not strong enough to change the behavior of a population. You need to maximize social mobilization. That is why we developed the World Day for Physical Activity to celebrate on April 6th. And on April 6, 2021 will be moved to life, the slogan of the celebration. And hopefully we have all the Indian members celebrating the World Day for Physical Activity on next April 6th. You can see examples of a celebration around the world. This is from Spain, from the US, from Japan, from Bogota. You can see the spectacular impact of our program in Bogota. That is Cuba. There is Cajamarca in Peru, a small community. You can see the small community, perhaps all population is on the street walking on the World Day for Physical Activity. In Managua, Catalonia, Peru, Argentina, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Spain again, Chile, US, El Salvador, Paraguay, Portugal, another picture from Argentina, Dubai, and Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo, where our movement started. You see the World Day for Physical Activity celebration. And you can see thousands of people on the streets of Sao Paulo celebrating the World Day for Physical Activity. If you, with all these examples, I could not change you to start doing something in promoting physical activity or getting involved in physical activity, the only thing I can do is to pray for you, or ask a friend of you to pray for you too, or pray together. One world, one dream was the slogan of the Olympics in Beijing, like I mentioned at the beginning of my talk. And my dream was to get the bird nest full of happy people, very active. And these are Chinese people who sent me this slide to confirm that one of my dreams are happening, and that is very happy with my group that is also celebrating the benefits to be active during life. Thank you very much.
Dr. Victor, thank you so much. It was such a wonderful session. It's a nice message to end with. Like you pray, or you can have somebody else praying together. But you have motivated the entire group. You're almost 2,500 participants with you, listening to you. And you really moved us all, because we're just wanting that, how could we start the program? It was a wonderful session. But before we start off with, could we take a few questions, please? Can I ask for some questions? Dr. Victor?
Yes, I'm ready for a question. You asking me how could you manage?
I'm going to ask you.
Okay. The question I couldn't listen really to your question. Would you please?
No, I would be. What are the activities preferred for coronavirus and secondary lifestyle during this COVID-19? Do you recommend any activities? And what should be the changes in lifestyle?
Oh, that's wonderful questions. And it's called the attention of many professionals in the world. You have the dramatic situation, because with coronavirus, the first reaction of the health authorities was to ask for the physical isolation, the physical isolation. And the physical isolation was bring a solution for the decrease in transmission for one side, but bring a problem for health in the other side, because it with that behavior, we increase the sedentarism, and also we increase the risk for inflammation, and we lower the immunology aspect of population when they are restricted at home. Then, like I mentioned at the beginning, we have a terrible situation, a syndemic situation, in which one side you have a coronavirus, in the other side you have a sedentarism. We have to adapt our message, because programs like Agita ask people to go to the street, to go for open area, to go to do exercise in clubs and in gyms and everywhere. And suddenly we had to change our message, because we need to incentive people to do physical activity at home. And then we have on our site many examples we can do. We can use homes like our new gym, because we need to use the home to do any kind of physical activity. Among them, we highlight the importance of dancing again, because dance is quite a useful message to be done inside home. And also because you can dance by yourself, you can dance with your parents and relatives, and then it is a great message to do inside. But the challenge is really to change the message from to go to open space to do physical activity at home. That is the main challenge. We also have many other aspects. I think Ulrich has mentioned in his talk. For example, that is not time to start doing physical activity, hard, vigorous physical activity. because although physical activity in moderate intensity increase the immunology, at a high intensity, they decrease the immunology. We have data from Dr. Dave Neiman, the best immunology exercise in the world, showing that upper tract respiratory infection increased by 3 to 6 times among the ones who are involved in vigorous physical activity. That shows clearly that vigorous physical activity is not the message. And reminding again that the risk for anyone who was sedentary, started doing hard physical activity, is increasing in 100 times the risk for a heart attack. That is terrible. Imagine, it's the only case that is preferable to be sedentary than to start a vigorous physical activity. If you are sedentary for a long time, don't start doing hard physical activity. We have many aspects for touching this area. For example, the distance between people. We have a data showing that we need at least 4 or 5 meters from distance from one who was walking ahead the other. We need at least 10 meters if you are biking, before one biking ahead, one biking behind. And if the bike is really hard biking, we need 20 meters distance to prevent the perdigotes, the aerosol systemic dissemination, transmission to happen. I'm very pleased to touch any topic in regards to COVID-19, but I think that the hardest topic is the reopening schools. Reopening schools is the worst, is the most complex topic to be discussed, because as everybody knows, the transmission among children is very low. It's 2 in among 100,000 children who was touched by COVID-19, the coronavirus. However, reopening school is not only a matter of scientific data. It's also a combination of emotional, cultural, different aspects. And it's very complex now, because we have examples in countries where they have open schools with very restrict control of the hygienic behavior, and other countries who have open school without any control. And the data is very controversial, because in some countries, the indices of contamination stay stable. Meanwhile, in other countries, increase a little bit. But that's I think, the most difficult question in our days to discuss.
Another question, how, this is by Akhil Maini, how would we help the children to develop and sustain a motivational mental process that leads to positive behavior change towards physical fitness? How could we motivate children? Is a question asked.
Okay.
Are you,
first off,
could you hear me?
Yes.
Could you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think to motivate children, Yuri has touched that topic in his talk again, and it's another very complex topic, but something that we need to take into account is that first we need to listen children what were their desire, and not to impose what is important in the curriculum or in our mind or the scientific data, but we need to listen to the children. Another topic important is the right for play. Children should play and not to practice and restrict sport. The first steps introduction kids to the sport arena is to give a chance to them to play before performance, to play with the ball, to play with the water before swimming. And then it's very important to give a chance to play. Of course, we have suggestions to promote physical activity in children, that besides the pleasure, we should give a chance to the children to participate in different sports and not only one, to give a chance to get different experiences, and also a combination of sports that stimulate the upper body, like swimming, and sports that stimulate the lower body, like soccer. And a combination of these program would be very health benefits for children. Another suggestion is to permit them to participate at individual sport like swimming, track and field, but combined with a team sport, because that combination of a stimulus would be much healthier and a higher level of education aspects to use physical activity and sports to prepare a new citizen.
Doctor, there's another question with regard to the mask. Like when you do an activity, wearing of a mask. So now they have recommended which kind of a mask. When you do an activity, should we be wearing a mask? Is that recommended when you do a training? And now they insist into it. So could you give your suggestion to that?
Yeah, mask is very important. Masks should be worn for everybody every day in these days. However, in doing physical activity, in light and moderate physical activity, the use of a mask is highly recommended. However, when we move to vigorous activity, very high level of intensity, the use of a mask should give uncomfortable perception, and there is a discussion, and perhaps they also giving some drawback to the performance. That is why the World Health Organization, surprisingly, announced that the use of masks is not necessary among athletes or people who are involved in high-level intensity physical activity. But of course, WHO recommended that persons should do hard physical activity in areas that are not there is not crowded area, that is more empty areas, and like a walk around the river, along the lake, and on the beach, and some reason that there are not crowds, of course, because it would be a total disaster to run or bike in a very crowded area without masks.
Thank you, Doctor. I think we'll go to the panelists. We still have Rosa with us. Rosa, are you there? Dr. Rosa, I can see yours. Are you there, Rosa? Dr. Yuri, please. Yes, Dr. Yuri.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
What can I say? To listen to Victor, it's a masterpiece of presentation. If I would send a student to learn, to be taught by Victor how to present presentation with evidence-based figures and findings. Who can argue with him? And Victor perhaps is one of the most experienced persons in the world in promoting physical activity. And while many scientists are explaining us what should we do, Victor actually is not just a scientist and a physician, but he's also a practitioner. And he tells us, hey guys, that is what you should do if you want to expand your longevity. And Victor knows how much I appreciate him, and it was an excellent presentation and a very meaningful one. And thank you so many times, Victor. We miss you. And I would say one or two more things, and perhaps I will ask Victor a question with your permission.
Sure.
First of all, Victor comes from a very, very great country, a country of Brazil, which in a way can be presented or be as a model to India. I mean, if you take Israel, Israel is not even one town in India or in Brazil, so there's nothing to compare, right? So I think from Victor you can take a lot of examples as to how you might implement theory into practice. And I think this makes his presentation so valuable to you in India. And now back to Victor. With all my due respect, and you know I have a lot of respect, we are not so successful worldwide. The level of inactivity in the world is, for many reasons, not increasing, but decreasing. And in the good sense of the situation, it's a plateau. One problem. Second problem is that, well, what I'm trying to say is that in spite of people like you and programs like you, and so many evidence that the benefits of physical activity is so high, still to get people out of their chair is so difficult. What do you think we need to do in addition of what you have proposed in order to change the picture? My second question is, don't you think that the school system, with the limited time of a teacher during physical education lessons, is actually a minimum possibility to educate children to start moving, but I am looking for the role of the parents. I think we have taken away the responsibility of the parents, and the parents think that we, the educators and the physicians, will always look after their children and will make sure that they are healthy. And I think this is incorrect. I think we have to move the pendulum back to the parents and tell them, hey guys, you need to start educating your children from infancy to childhood, through childhood, to make sure that your children will be active and will learn to love to play, as you just have said it so nicely and so rightly. Could you comment on that, please?
Yuri, thanks so much for your comments. You're so nice and so friendly. Of course, I cannot accept all the wording you gave to my presentation, but it's the result of group work. It's not my work, it's a group work. It's the team of Selafis who really have been working for years and years, and colleagues like Beatriz, who is part of this dream because she has been with us since the beginning of Selafis. And I agree with your comment.
Beatrice is also with us, so she doesn't belong to you only, and she's good for IXPE. And please pass my thanks to your team, of course.
Anyway, I think for the first question is the harder question. I would have a different topics can I share with you. My first point is that sedentarism is a risk behavior that was just admitted like a risk factor, believe it or not, in 1992. It was another day that when World Health Organization admit that sedentarism was a risk factor, because before people think, oh, among the obesity we have a physical inactivity. Among the risk to be diabetic, we have a physical inactivity. Among to hypertension, physical inactivity, depression, physical inactivity. But never they took physical activity itself like a risk factor. It was only in 1992. And for that reason, the books in medical schools are not really updated enough, are not really getting the new information for the new doctors. And we consider that doctors, for good or for bad, the research shown that doctors are the main, the strongest message changes in behavior that we have in society. And if we don't get the support of medical doctors, would be a total disaster, because if you say something, if I say something, the impact on the society is different than when a doctor says for their patients what is the right to do. I think because medical doctors did not use, and particularly did not advocate physical activity as part of the medical system, as part of not only prevention and promotion of health, but part of the treatment, is part of the treatment. Because I think I have presented in the exams, last exams in Brazil, my first talk, I presented a conference on the comparison of drugs, the use of drugs or the use of exercise to promote health. And it is terrible, because if we don't use physical activity like a part of the treatment, we will be not inside the system, because the system is not a health system. We don't have ministries of health around the world. We have a ministry of diseases. We have centers of diseases, not center of health. And we need to change this mentality. We need to use physical activity like the only pill, the only tool, the only pill for medical doctors that can prevent, promote, and treat diseases. We also need to, because if we have a strong advocacy from the medical sector, we can touch the political authorities. The political authority is another factor, important factor, but we need to develop a right to speech to talk with politicians. Because if we doctors start showing them, oh, we have a risk for deaths and we have this number of deaths people, politicians don't take care about the deaths because deaths people don't vote. That's the problem. And then the attention of politicians are about next voters. And then you need to develop a right to speech to convince, to advocate them. We need even to start talking, I would say, might be strange, but with religious sectors, because religious sectors may play a very important role. If all religions pray for health, there is no religion in the world that don't pray for health. And because every religion prays for health, why don't use physical activity to pray for them? That is another potential situation we have in the future. We need to use the artificial intelligence, because it's a new world, new technology, and we need to use the artificial intelligence to develop algorithms that can promote physical activity worldwide, and to touch different aspects. We know that internet is reaching progressively more and more people around the world, and we need to use this device to promote physical activity. I think that is the first part of your question. The second part of your question is that we need to end the attribution for the children, for like the children was the guilty. Okay, I agree with you. I think that the parents is very important. I love to share data that I consider quite important. Papers show that if we have an active mother, we double the chance to kid be active. If we have an active father, we triple the chance to get an active child. But if we have a mother and father active, we multiply by 6 the chance to get an active child. That is a message that we should share with population, because we need to convince daddies that they just don't pass the color of the hairs or the colors of the eyes to the children. They also pass the behavior. And I think, for example, in Brazil, we have been using this because families in Latin America, I think in India is the same. Perhaps they don't care about themselves, but they care about the children. And then when we say that your behavior change this change of health of your children, we have a better chance to change the behavior of the parents and in consequence of the children.
Thank you, Victor. I just would like to share with you something I've tried to do when I was the Sport Administration Director here in Israel. I have said to the Ministry of Health, I mean, you people shouldn't be named the Ministry of Health. You are the Ministry of the Sick.
Yeah.
The Sport Ministry should be named the Sport and Health Ministry. And we want that you will borrow us 1% of your budget. And we promise you that in 10 years, we pay back 10 times what we have loaned from you. But it didn't work so good. They disagree with me.
It's not your fault.
Politicians.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yuri. Dr. Beatrice, please.
Well, Victor, great presentation. Thank you very much to come to this Indian program. And I'm following your scientific career for years. And it's always pleasure to listen to you. I know the program, but there is always something new that you come and then you motivate people. The Agita São Paulo is great to your leadership, vision of the world, and conception of your persistence. That's something very important. You have a dream, but you don't go for it. And then for years and years, it's not going to work. And Agita São Paulo, represent all of this much more. And it's a dream that came true, and thanks to your leadership. And yes, I say, yeah, I'm part of this, but you always push us. Beatriz, come. And then João, and all, you keep bringing more information and pushing us, otherwise you would stop, but you are very active. And to fight against the path of sedentarism and the urbanization of the cities has led us to this terrible health problem. All over the world, as you show, and the different programs, and the people, they don't move, they try to sit, they don't do anything, and it's very hard. This question that keeps everybody asking, how hard it is to be more active. It's natural, where we came to be active, but you start sitting more and more and more. And especially when you see all these electronic games that is more and more for children and then for young people. And it's something that we have been thinking, how important it is for society. It's important for this. And I'm sure that every country can develop a great program to promote physical activity based on the organization of the cities. We can give some ideas, bring some ideas from one country to another one, but when you show what happened in Africa and then Colombia, you adapt, you have to adapt to the way that the society is organized, and then, keeps going, and then to help to promote physical activity. And what's something very important is that it's a program that starts from Selafiskis, and it's an NGO, and then has this partnership with all this government and other NGOs and industry, and it's a network that it's important to have this network. Otherwise, it's very difficult to go to a program only if you think only a school, or you think the government is responsible for this. Well, yes, it could be, but it's not necessary. You need to have some leader and a dream, someone that dreams. And I think it's important to see so many young people, young teachers that are listening to your presentation, and it's important to dream and go for it. Okay, congratulations, Victor. If you want to give another message, people will listen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bea. It was so nice to listen to this wording for you. I'm very emotional with your wording. I would just make a comment, like that in my perspective, we know that if you go by yourself, you can go quite more rapidly in front ahead. But if you go with a group, you go longer. That is, I think, the message we learned during these years of promoting a collective dream, not my personal dream, but a team dream, like that, in which you are part of that.
Thank you, Beatrice. It's been so nice that you've been part of this. And really speaking, since we heard this, we are restless to start something in a small way, at least here. And I request you to guide us in this. Your dream, it slowly has permeated and gotten to the small place. And we all look forward to start at least in a small way, because we have the whole country right now, around 2,500 participants from across the country coming in. And at least to start with one thing is of sedentariness, which we think of doing. Anyway, before the talk, I request Dr. G. Kishore, sir. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Usha. Respected Dr. Victor A. Matsudo. It's a wonderful session. I appreciate it. Is something which is very relevant at this point of time, and also for many nations, especially for like India, because we are also confronting this hypokinetic lifestyle diseases. And the WHO has predicted that 30% of the Indian population can be hit by lifestyle diseases. So I would like to follow the advice or the raised by Dr. Yuri, that we would like to have a share of budget from Health Ministry to us, and to strengthen sports, and it should be health and sports together. And if we get a share of budget which is being given to health sector, we can give it back 10 dividend with 10%. That is very right. And the movement of Agita, which has been initiated by your leadership, is something admirable. I think we have also a similar program at present going on in India, which is known as Fit India program. We have got a Government of India scheme known as Khelo India. Khelo means play. Khelo India means play India. That is what the slogan, and we have got a vertical for community sports and fitness. That is known as Fit India program. The Fit India program is something which envisages 10% physical fitness to all Indians, especially the youth. So the wonderful program with Agita, which you have taken up, we have several things to emulate from that. So we will go little deep into. We will contact you offline and to get some more details about this program, and also we would like to emulate from this on how exactly we can also get benefited by raising such programs in our country too. And we may have a similar discussion in certain other platforms about this, and how we can combat in India this problem of hypokinetic lifestyle through such programs, Agita, and also how we can dovetail something from your program to our Fit India program too. Thank you very much. It was a very wonderful presentation. I'm sure that this would be definitely beneficial to all, the countries where the sedentary lifestyle has become a problem. I don't find that most of the part of the world, it's a common problem affecting worldwide, especially at the time of pandemic. And I think we need to, the figures which you have shown are something, which is very alarming about the deaths, especially. And especially today's death, what you have shown, over more than 15,000, which has happened on a day out of hypokinetic lifestyle. It's something eye-openers for everyone, and especially the physical education teachers and community coaches. And the role which they have to play is something very, very significant, where they can avoid this to a considerable extent by having such different type of programs of the similar way. Thank you very much, Dr. Victor, for your kind time. for sparing your valuable time. We appreciate that, and we'll continue a good relationship in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kishore
Thank you,
sir.
Dr. Kishore.
I had few questions because one was with regard to at the outset, like to acknowledge a medical doctor, like we had Dr. Cooper, Dr. Jeremiah Morris. So you belong to the same category of those doctors who advocated for physical, fitness. Very rare. So I think I need to hats off to you for helping us out because you accept us when you talk of physical activity. If doctors, as you said, they advocate for this, people don't listen to us. Like we've been trying here, like for breast cancer, how to prevent that, how to bring in exercise. When you speak, doctors are not willing to send the patients, but when you speak for it, definitely to come in. Could you just highlight something on exercise as medicine? Because we yet to start something of that sort. Aging and physical activity is yet to start in India. I did a small course in it when I was in Western Ontario on aging and physical activity. And I think there's lots which came into mind, but the dream that you had, it was a great thing, a team led by you, and you happened to get it. But I'm sure, please put in that dream also India coming in, the small place of Kerala, India, don't say Kerala, India coming in the picture. So please put that, we all are there behind, and you're only going to help us in that. Could you kindly elaborate on exercise as medicine on campus, anything of that, exercise prescription, please.
Wonderful, Usha. I guess it's my dream now to start a new collaboration with India, and we'll be very pleased in the future to have a common presentation in which you will be presenting the data from India, transforming India in a more active country and a more happy country with using physical activity like the main tool.
Can I just ask one question about bed rest? Now they say when you talk of bed rest, we don't recommend much. Even an athlete, when an athlete is injured, then we recommend more for passive. We don't talk for bed complete rest. So there's something known as a bed rest, which is not recommended these days that can increase sedentariness more. Anything of that sort? Bed rest, when we talk of it. Could you highlight something onto that, please? I think there's a problem. Yeah, doctor. I think.
Não, nós estamos escutando, Bia. Vai em frente. Vai
Okay,
em frente, Bia.
Okay, doctor. So maybe I'll talk about that later. But anyway, I think your valuable
I'm sorry,
presence.
but it cut the question. I
Doctor,
couldn't listen the question.
Yeah, one question was, now even for the athletes who are injured, we don't recommend bed rest. We say active rest. The part which is there, it's okay. So now even for the patients, I've come across some of the research, they says, don't go in for bed rest. It's equivalent to like you're being inactive. So what do you speak in that case?
The problem that is cutting here. You can answer.
Okay, perhaps I can help you, Beatrice. Usually, you know that in the former time, bed rest was the medical treatment for many diseases. For example, for a heart attack 40 years ago, all patients were sent to bed rest. It was a total disaster because indeed, instead of increase their chance to survive, you are decline their chance to survive. I can take my example. I was training in the US and I was shocked when I saw heart attack patients doing physical activity. It was in 1973. When I came back to Brazil, I started doing in my hospital to put heart attack patients doing physical activity. I was called by the principal of the hospital, and he almost fired me because he said I was an insane doctor to start doing physical activity with former heart attack patients. That is a tendency now to decline the period of bed rest, and also once in bed we start doing physical activity even in bed. That we have protocols, we have a physiotherapists that you are doing a marvelous work in bed rest, preparing people to next steps by step to get back the normal behavior of walking, jumping, running. Okay, that's but perhaps I don't know if Beatrice has listened or now the question if you want Beatrice to add something.
I think you are right. I mean, the world changed. I mean, in the beginning of my career, I started working with people that had a heart problem, and but we were very afraid to do something with them. We didn't know what to do because we didn't have the scientific base to do this. And it's amazing how the world changed, and we can have much more information. And we have to base on scientific information to do practice, especially with some special people, a special group like cardiac or people that has problem. And I'm sure that in these 30 years, 40 years, the world changed, and they'll have much more knowledge and to teach to prepare the new generation to do things, to work with children, to work with the young, to old people. And then especially now that we have a very bad problem, very big problem with the indigenous people in Brazil that I showed that they are very sedentary. Can imagine that years ago, they were not sedentary at all. And now they are more sedentary, every day more. And the problem that they have are much bigger. And but we keep dreaming and trying to do something, and even if it's next door, but we have to do this. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
that all the young people will do this in India.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. So on behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, thank you so much, Doctor. In spite of this busy schedule, coming out from that, sparing 1 hour was something which I think we cannot say for it because your time is very valuable. But almost 2,500 our P teachers participants could listen to you, hear to you, and I'm sure we're going to carry a message. And all of us has started already dreaming, thinking how we could make things possible to reduce the sedentariness is the first thing that we keep in mind, and to advocate for it from our level. So once again, I'd say hats off to you. Thank you so much. And we look forward to you at least once a while. Whenever you find some time, please do help us and guide us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very
I'd like
much.
to thank you, Dr. Yuri. Thank you so much. As I said, the president of IXP is with us, and he makes it a point of not missing any session. Thank you very much for your valuable contribution also, because every time we get to learn something new. Thank you so much. And as rightly pointed out, I'm sure Kishore is going to put effort, like put it across to the ministry, whatever you put, suggest, fight for our rights. And I think something should work. And if not in Israel, we'll try in India too. Thank you. I'd like to thank Beatrice. Thank you so much, because it's been nice. You are the ones again who is helping us to make it a real international platform, getting us the most eminent speakers. So thank you so much, Beatrice, for your valuable presence and your contribution. I'd like to thank Dr. G. Kishore, sir, for being a part of this and for your valuable suggestions. And I'm sure that, as he said, is a very influential person to move things, because that matters a lot. So we all are going to carry a message, and we too have a dream, and let's see when does the dream come true. Thank you so much, Kishore, sir. I'd like to thank Dr. Sanjeev Patil for being the host. I'd like to thank Hari and my dear PE teachers. You've been here for almost 2 hours. Thank you so much, my dear PE teachers. I'm sure each one has carried the message, and we should start doing something at least to minimize the risk of sedentariness, and it lies on to us. So once again, on behalf of all those present here, thank you, each one, and a namaste.